Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you, Arif, and I would like to thank IB Ventures and Sanjay Bahat for giving this opportunity for us to help to build the drone and robotics zone here in Johor. And over this periods of giving us this opportunity or this unprecedented moment to build this robotic zone here in Johor. I would like to thank also MSC Cyberport for giving me this opportunity to become a moderator for this event for Iskandar Global Innovation and Technology Exchange 2021, the first session. Yes, over the past year, we have worked very closely with MSC Cyberport, especially in the planning and strategize, focusing on the specific core areas. In servicing robot, educational STEAM program, which we are rolling out a series of servicing robots here in Johor. Also, we have our own robotic living lab for the display and showcase to the public. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are here in Johor, we would like to invite you to come to our living lab and have a view of our servicing robot, a full range for hotel, for hospital, for airport, schools, and public areas where we have all full range, including currently the pandemic situation. We also have the disinfectants robots here in Johor. Without further ado, I would like to also now to introduce you our first prominent speakers. The first session, this prominent speaker hold a PhD in information science in Nagoya University of Japan, specialized in humanoid robots. He has 18 years of experience in the robotic field. He's also a researcher, innovator, and academician. He also holds several positions as a visiting professor in several international universities. He also holds the chairmanship of IEEE Robotic and Automation RAS Malaysia chapter, and is well known among the robotic scientists and researcher community of his robotic field. So let's welcome the founder and now the group CEO of Robopreneur Sanjay Bahat, Dr. Hanafia Yusof. Dr. Hanafia, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Raymond, for the introduction. And Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me in this session, in this event. So my name is Hanafia Yusof, Hanafia Yusof. I'm the CEO of Robopreneur Sanjay Bahat. Can I have my slide, please? Okay, the title that's been given to me is actually the past, the present, and the future of the adoption of robotics application industry. Next, please. Well, actually, the topic is broad. It's a very broad topic, and I think it's impossible to cover everything in this 15 minutes, Raymond. But I will try to be more focused on important subject. Knowing that the attendance today very keen and very passionate about robotics and also drones, which is we actually having our Malaysian National Robotic Roadmap currently towards the establishment of Malaysia Robotics Policy. And for this topic, I will try to elaborate the history of robots towards the future in three main elements, which is from the industrial revolutions, robotics technology growth, and also the combination of robotics and AI. Next. Okay, before I go further, I will just let everyone know that I will be quoting some of the data and also finding that been compiled for the National Robotic Roadmap, which is I'm one of the committee. And from the first perspective, which is from the Industrial Revolution perspective, I think everyone know about our Industrial Revolution, and recently also Malaysia have been launching our first IF 4.0 policy. And I think robotics will be one of the main pillar enabler technology to success on this policy. So looking back at the Industrial Revolution history, in Industry 1.0, the robotics actually just started at that time, and it's very much on the mechanical hardware design, and mostly manually operate in order to help humans lifting heavy object, mechanization, and so on. And the usage is quite limited. And when we're moving to Industry 2.0 in 19th century, robotics has become more prominent in terms of helping the industry to succeed the mass productions. And at this time also, the mechanical of the robot have been combined with electronics, and some simple low-level programming have been introduced, and in order to increase the speed, and also at this time, the automation has been started. Yeah? In Industry 3.0, in the mid 20th century, where the computers and also internet been introduced, the robots actually been evolved from mechanical electronics to embedded into into a sensors. And we can have semi-autonomous and also high-level programmable system, combining with some network using the internet. And we have seen many industries being using robots in their manufacturing. And this is where the automation become booming. And we have seen a lot of industry manufacturing using robot in order to success their productions. And for today, we are in the era of Industry 4.0, where people talk about humanizing the machines, and robots have been become a very important subject there. And we already have a term of mechatronics, combining mechanical and electronics. And we embedded the sensors, and most importantly, at this time around, we have AI as the main component of robotics. Yeah? And we have seen many machines become more autonomous, and the programming also been evolved to become more efficient, more AI based, and we can have a high level data processing as well. And then the movement of manufacturing have been towards more efficient, more faster, more safe, and we have seen also human-robot interaction being booming, and towards the maturity of AI in future, we are actually moving towards singularity. Yeah? Actually, this singularity is one interesting topic. Maybe we can discuss in the event where the AI become very intelligent, more intelligent than the capacity of human thinking. Yeah. Okay. Next. So from the perspective of robotics technology growth, actually there are 5 generation robots. Now we have seen a lot of robot in industry. So these are actually classified as the first generation of robots, which is focusing on industrial and also manufacturing automations. The second generation is moving towards the service robotics, where robots become more common in daily life, can use as a medium to solve human problems. Yeah, so it already goes out from manufacturing landscape to be more human friendly, and it become more intelligent, more interactive, and also mobile. Okay. The third generation is actually ubiquitous robots. This is where the robot become more intelligent and able to work with different devices, connecting different devices into a smart environment. It is network. It has a capability to understand human emotion, and it is actually being used to accelerate the digital transformation in the industry and also in businesses. Yeah? The fourth generation, this is a very interesting topic. We are still in the level of R&D, where robot is become more genetically, yeah, and it is an artificial species that it combine some sort of biological aspect in the robotics structure. Yeah? We can see nowadays we have artificial skin, artificial muscle, soft robotics, and this is actually the main component that pushing towards genetic robots. And the highest level, the fifth generation, is actually biorobots. So biorobot, you can imagine a robot that actually having a similar or better capability than human. Yeah, it is symbiosis, meaning that both human, robot, and robot and robot, yeah, all those element of biological aspect can interact and can coexist together. Yeah, it is biocompatible, bioenable, biocontrol, and bioembedded. Next. Wait. So can we back to the previous slide? Sorry. Okay. The world progress right now, we are actually in terms of R&D, we have reached the world reaching at the beginning of the fourth generation of robotics. This is where the biological aspect become more prominent in the robotics development. For Malaysia, we are still at the second generation, where nowadays the service robotics become something that we are looking forward to have it in Malaysia. Thanks. Next. So from the robotics and AI perspective, I will use this chart from PwC talking about the journey of robotics and AI. So at the early beginning of 20th century, the AI concept being introduced, yes, such as using Turing tests and evolving of 3 laws of robotics, and some testing have been conducted at this time. And starting from 1950 and above, we already have the intelligent machine, and the transformation between manual operation to semi-auto, and also the robot able to connect between the computers and also the clouds. And we have seen also the connectivity evolve together with the growth of internet technology. Next. So moving forward in 1990s, we have intelligent automations. We have big data processing, and we have human-machine interaction. This is actually the beginning of Industry 4.0. And nowadays, and moving forward, we will experiencing a lot of autonomous system, high capability of the robot to do analytics and understand emotions. We have collaborative robots. We have a maturity of human-robot interaction. And nowadays, we have a term so-called social robot and so on. This is a very accelerated area, and we believe that if previously we take about 50 years to transform between one segment to another segment, with this speed of internet, data processing, and all, the robot and AI become more faster to adopt. Next. Okay, so before we go further, I will probably introduce what are the real classification of robotics taken from IFR. We have 3 classification of robotics: industrial robots that works in the manufacturing. We have a service robot that works outside the manufacturing side, and we have a collaborative robot, which is the area where overlapping between industrial and service robot, where human and robot working together in the manufacturing side. And then if we define based on the hardware platform, we have a robot that we have with 2 legs, we call it biped. We have a 4 legs robot, quadruped. We have mobile robots, AGV. We have flying robot, yeah, UAV. We have underwater robot, call it ROV. We have robotics arm and also crawling and climbing robot. So this platform will actually is the pillar of, if we are looking at how we want to strategize into development of robots. So we have to see what are the basic platform that we want to develop for that particular robot. Next. So robotics, AI, and automation is actually 3 important keywords which is intercorrelate each other. it complement each other in the way that for modern robotics, it's no longer a purely hardware structure. It needs some sort of intelligent and cognitive that been provided using the intelligence of computing for AI. And then we have the way of doing things, which is automations, where we automate some sort of process and robot become the enabler for these automations. And for the towards the application of robots in various industry, we need to have a lot of R&D, we need to have a lot of innovation, prototyping, commercializations, before we can actually apply it to the industrial and also professional and also for home use. Yeah? So both automation and AI are very vital for successful robotics development and ecosystem. And eventually, thriving robotics technology will lead to the new application and adoption. Yeah? And this is actually the main pillar that will give impact in terms of economy, in terms of social life. Yeah? So it's very important technology that we need to focus. Yeah? Next. So now I will explain about more on the trend and also the market of robotics. So the global trend right now, the global trend right now still very much focusing on the manufacturing in terms of the quantity of robot that have been deployed also. But then there are a lot of areas that the robot being involved. For example, in medical and healthcare, security and surveillance, warehouse automation is very important segment right now for robotics application. Yeah. Service and consumer also, yeah. There's a lot of robots that are being used as partners, as a medium to help restaurant, hotel, and so on. And very importantly for Malaysia, we are focusing very much on food and agriculture because our country is basically an agriculture country. And there are some element in robotics that been diverse into other smart system, where the sensing and vision is playing important role for robot to combine and so collaborate with other smart system. Next. So looking at the robotics market and sales, still very much dominated by industrial robot. But the growth of service robotics is quite interesting, where the numbers of robots being sold globally for professional service and also domestic service is actually growing very fast. Yeah? The importance of this robot is moving from the dimension of doing very day-to-day operation to become a robot that able to collaborate with humans, and this is actually able to solve a lot of problem in non-manufacturing area. Yeah. Next. And then this is the chart that taken from IFR. Yeah? This is the annual installation of industrial robots. So we can have this report if you see in IFR website. Yeah. But the things I want to highlight here is actually Asian is the largest market of industrial robot. So the number of deployment in Asia is actually the highest. So meaning that the market in Asia is where we are, Malaysia is in Asia. We have a better chance in terms of application of robotics in terms of in industry. Yeah? Next. So this is service robotics. We have seen a growth in service robotic professional use and also some domestic use. Next. And I would like to highlight here the 4 areas that are growing right now in service robotics. The champion now is on logistic, followed by medical, field robot, and defense. Next. Okay, this is some typical example on how actually robotics been used in nowadays industry. Yeah? Like Amazon, if you order anything from Amazon, most likely your order will be handled by this among 200,000 robot in Amazon warehouse. And the history of SoftBank by acquiring Iskandar Robotics to develop paper, and then Boston Dynamics, where recently they sell to Hyundai. And then Sovereign Robotics now is the biggest owner of AutoStore. It's the solution for warehouse. We also have this company called Zook, providing autonomous car solution. They are at the highest level of readiness right now. And this is quite interesting to see how they're going to deploy in the mesh environment. Next. So this is something that we compile in our NRR by Academic Science. This is the Global Readiness Index of robotics worldwide. We are actually having a still low density of robot being deployed. We only 55 units per 10,000 employee. We are at the 14th place, not so bad. But our neighbor, like Singapore, is the third place in terms of the density of robots in the 10,000 employee. The first one is South Korea, followed by Germany, and then Singapore and Japan. Yeah. Next. This is another interesting data that we compile in NRR. This is actually the journey of robotics in Malaysia. This is the compilation of government GLCs, initiative of universities, and also establishment of companies, robotics company in Malaysia. We can see for Robopreneur, we are established in 2015. DF Automation back in 2012. Yeah. So this is the journey that we track back how Malaysian robotics development and also the growth of robotics in Malaysia. Okay, next. Finally, I think we already end of time. I just briefly introduce Robopreneur. We are a company that focusing on service robotics, and we have a full set of service robotics in various industries. We have capability in software and AI. Recently also during pandemic, we have moved our business. We have established another pillar on medical technology.
Doctor, we are currently slightly a little bit out of time. We'd like to see whether you can speed up and probably to wrap up your thoughts, so we can proceed to the
I think I think that's all for 15 minutes. It's very short. I think
okay.
Maybe we need 1 or 2 hours to explain everything, but it's okay. We have another round of forum session after this. We can have a discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Anafia. Okay, well, thank you, Doctor, for your insight and sharing of your past and present and the future of robotic adoption of the industry. We can see that there are so wide range of robots that can be applied in the industry and also in the general public and domestic markets. Now, we are running out of time now. We are about 10:24. We would like to invite the second very prominent speakers who will give us a talk about the robotic technopreneurs, development and challenges. And he is the associate professor from the University of Technology of Malaysia, holding a PhD from the Imperial College of London. He has more than 15 years experience in robotic and academician, researcher, and also entrepreneurs. He's also the founder and director of DF Automation and Robotics Sdn Bhd, which produced the autonomous mobile robots, which is selling to the domestic and overseas market. It is one of our very pioneer in the robotic industry who built robots here in Malaysia. Let's welcome Dr. Yong Chi Fai. Dr. Yong, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Raymond, for the kind introduction. Yeah, good morning, everyone. So my name is Yong Chi Fai, and I just want to say thank you to Iskandar, Malaysia, DRZ, and also Ignite for inviting me to give this sharing talk. And I was asked to give a talk a little bit about my journey on the entrepreneurship, and also a bit of a scene that what happening as a company, what are the challenges and opportunity are there. So can I have a slide? So the title is called Robotic Technopreneur, Development and Challenge. Next slide. So I'll just go through the 3 main content. The first one is really just to tell a quick one, how DF Automation is started, and then a little bit about DF Automation, what we do, and also what we do as a company to develop a robot called Machikia, if some of you didn't know it, and what are the challenges and what are the opportunity out there. Next slide. Yeah, so Raymond has introduced me a little bit, and just that my interests are really in robotics, innovation, AI, and I have also managed some research fund and startup fund, and also published more than 100 publications in the academic and research world. Next slide. Yeah, so I'm actually a lecturer who is trying to build a few startups, just like Dr. Hannah here early on, and we are still communicate to each other how can we do better to do on the both profession that we have. Next slide. And one of the amazing things that as a lecturer, actually we see talent. And this is where actually we take the opportunity. And back in 2012, I co-founded DF Automation with my two students of mine, Ricky and also Tan Ping Hua. Then on 2014, we have more students grow the business. Next slide. Next. 2015, increase more. Next. 2016, then if you look into this group of team back in then, if you can just click next. So there's a couple of next. Yep. So this is all that have joined RoboCon that has actually held in Malaysia. So this RoboCon actually provide the student a way to learn their talent, to polish their skill, and then DF Automation have an opportunity to hire them. Next slide. Yeah. So then in 2017, we increased. Next slide. And this is 2019. We already have 60 staff. Next slide. And this is actually the picture that we took just before the MCO. I mean, of course, we cannot take this picture anymore. So you can see the very short period of time, about 8 years, we can increase from 3 founders into about 60, 70 right now. And it's thanks to the ecosystem in Johor Bahru, and also because we are very near to UTM. Next slide. So this is also when we first started, we didn't start from big, we start from home first. Next. Then we use a shop lot in 2016. Next. 2018, then we have a factory. As for now, 2020, I don't have a picture. We have 2 factories in Johor Bahru, 2 branches in KL and Penang, and also branches in India. Next slide. Yeah, that's pretty much my journey of entrepreneurship. So I just want to share a bit of a DF Automation. Next slide. So our customer are really a manufacturer plant that has huge, that is about 20,000 square meter. Next slide. Again, every day there's 1,000 group of movement between location daily, either from warehouse to the production line. Then from the production line, after they finish good, they go to the delivery and whatnot. Next slide. And because of that, most of these operations are being carried out by workers and operators. And some of these workers need to actually push or carry up to 500 kg per day and walk up to 3 kilometers. So these are the huge problems. Next. And this is a low skill job, human factor, and cost. And a lot of companies are looking for how to solve this, and also from the government, how to improve this situation. Next. And as what Dr. Hanifah mentioned earlier on, I mean, AGV has been there for very long, since 1950. It works, but unable to achieve a full usability. When back in 2012, a company asked us to do, in fact, we asked them to buy. Then only we realized that, if you can click next, most of the robot back then is quite difficult to program. It's not flexible, and very important, it's very, very expensive. So that's why we start our businesses in this field. Next. So this is DF Automation. Our 2 core products you can see on the top right is NetWays. It's a software to program all our robot, everything developed in Malaysia, developed in Johor Bahru. And the DFLEET is actually the software to manage all the robot together. So you can try to imagine the smart manufacturing, all the robot talking to all the equipment, the infrastructure. So this is all done by us. And the middle photo are all the robot model that we have right now. And every year we try to have 1 or 2 new models coming out. So our vision is really to become a global market leader and expert in providing Industry 4.0 AMR product and solution. And really mission is to provide high quality product for our customer. Next. So just want to share, this is a very typical AGV. Of course, you have, sensor, motor, battery, and whatnot. I will just quickly show a minute of a video. Next slide. If you can click on the video, is it running? It's supposed to be a video. Yep. Oh, cannot play the video. That's fine. So if you're not able to see the video, you can just go to our YouTube and you're able to see it now. So that video that I plan to show is actually an application in industry. And now the one that you see right now is actually the application used in restaurant. So basically when you order the food, then the robot will send you the food. And on the left one is actually featured by CNET. This robot right now actually in San Francisco in a Korean restaurant. On the right one is actually one of the Zamai in Kuala Lumpur. And I think if you've been to some of the sushi restaurant now, Sushi King or Zamai in Malaysia, you may see this robot. So this is from DF Automation. Next. Next slide. Yeah, then we can do a lot more other stuff like, you know, the robot with a robot arm. So you can imagine this is like smart manufacturing, smart warehouse kind of stuff. You normally hire like 20 to 50 people in a warehouse, but right now you can just use one robot and this robot does everything for you. You can go to the warehouse, to the store to pick up, then move autonomously to the production line to do the job. I mean, yes, vision, yes, camera, then after they come back. So we are trying to look into reducing workers completely in a factory. So there's a whole idea what's a smart manufacturing. Next slide. Yeah. The right one is just an illustration how we communicate with all the robots together. In fact, there are multiple products out there. Our product, AGV, 4 AGV, 2 cobot, one is UR from Denmark, one is TM from Taiwan. Then we have a standard conveyor. Then we have all kinds of different robots. Then they all communicate together. Next slide. Next. Yeah, so these are other deployments. So what the key reason why they use a robot is very straightforward. In Malaysia, the return on investment between 2 to 4 years is ready to reduce labor reliance, customizable product, and industry 5.0. But if compared to Singapore, the return on investment is less than 1 year. Next slide. So these are our customer. Next slide. And just want to quickly touch a bit of the story of Machikia, because as DF Automation, when we were in lockdown, we cannot do anything. Next slide. Next slide. And all of a sudden, the Prime Minister announced the MCO extended. Then we think that, hey, we have to do something. So I think at that time at home, we just do some sketching and say we want to design some robot to help the hospital. Next slide. So these are some of the sketches. Next. On 25th of March. Next. And that's how, then we publish an article, because at the time we want to help, but we don't know who to look for. Then we publish this, and mostly sorry, some organization, then we were being grouped together to see what we can do. Next. Then we went into the hospital. At that time, hospital, you came to see the problem. And then one of the things that we could do faster, we call it low-hanging fruit, is the food delivery robot. Next slide. And yep, next. So I just want to share during the MCO when lockdown, we have thousands of WhatsApp messages to communicate with each other, a new way of communicating. Next. 100 of concept design. Next. Lots of video conferencing between every stakeholder, tons of media coverage. Next. And we have one, and next. Yeah, we have one Machikia. This is the MCK-19 story that we have developed back then. Next. And when we ship this robot to the hospital, next. In fact, the very next day, we got a request from MIPES. They say they also want the same thing. But again, we don't have another robot. And we got a bigger challenge. They want in 2 days' time. So we use a simpler design called DOE. Next. So we send the robot to serve 400 patients. Next. Let's see if the video is running. Yeah, if you can try to run the video. Yeah, it's not running. So yeah, you can just Google DOE, then there is this robot. So the robot ran at the MIPES at that time for 3 months. So we have served 53,000 meals, travel about 35 kilometers, and serve up to 1,004 patients. And again, at that time, we just want to help, but now we are not able to send the robot there anymore because the place got a lot more crumble. So we are not able to send the robot anymore. Next. Next. Just want to share the evaluation that the first Machikia on 17 days, then DOE in the next 2 days. Then after that, we are thankful to get NTIS sandbox for this project. Next. Then we got a commercial viable look for this robot. Next. Yeah, so that's the journey. Right now, actually, we are looking into a bit more, because we are industrial robot, we are not service robot like just defined by Dr. Anafia. So we still want to focus on the industrial part of it. So we are focusing on more heavy duty. Next. Yeah, this is some of the picture to Prime Minister during the NTIS. Next. So DF Automation, based in Johor Bahru, every year we come up with 1 or 2 products, and these are some of the new robots that we plan to launch MCK-19, the UV dissipation robot, Cube, Zeta, and the autonomous stacker robot. If you ask me, actually DF are actually focusing more on this Zeta and the stacker robot, the industrial robot. Next. Yeah, the challenges are really during this incident, the COVID, DF suffered a lot of reduced sales activity because we cannot meet the customer, supply chain disrupted, project delay, and we still need to maintain pay full salary to all staff. Next. But again, and I mean, during these challenges, there's a huge opportunity. Next. Next slide. Next. So we have been trying to penetrate to healthcare for the last 8 years. When we first started, we cannot penetrate, to be honest. But during the COVID, we penetrated to healthcare within 1 month. And right now, there's a lot of incentive for the robotic. And also because of this, there's so much awareness on robotic. Next slide. And we just closed the investment round, actually. We're going to announce it soon for that. So again, the greater the challenge, the greater the opportunity. Next slide. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you. Raymond, you're mute.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yong. Thank you, Dr. Yong, about sharing all your experience, your past on developing the robot here in Malaysia. As a super senior, I really think that UTM has produced one of the best graduates on all the technologies specialists from UTM. So without further ado, we have a few questions here. Some we are ready from one of the audience, but we are one of the very specific that Dr. Hanafia has pointed out that Malaysia's ranking fall into number 14, which is based on the International Federation of Robotics. Malaysia robot density is 55 units out of 10,000 K employees as compared to Singapore, which is 918 units. This is quite a big gap. Consider Malaysia and Singapore is just one causeway away. Now, how can both our government and the private sector can play their role in increasing the adoption of robotics application in Malaysia as compared to the world, especially in Asia right now, which that you mentioned is one of the largest market here in the Asia region. So how can both government and private sector play the roles in adopting the robot here?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, thank you. Well, looking at Singapore, actually, they first of all, they have a very good policy in terms of governance and setting up. It's not only the governance, but also the ecosystem that plays important factors on the growth of robotics application in the industry. And for Malaysia, we are still catching up in terms of, there's a lot of MNC also investment of foreign companies in Malaysia. But then we are still struggling on very much on justification of the cost. We have options, I call it options, that we utilize it very widely, which is the foreign labors that, you know, we have been flooding our industry with foreign labors in order to produce our product in industry. And then in critical industry like automotive, semiconductor, they are already started employing robots in their production. But then our SMEs and also media factories, they are still not be able to cope with the price of robotics. That's one of the important factors that we are still lagging behind. I think during this pandemic, it's a wake-up call for the government and also for the industry in order to have better opportunity, better options. When the foreign labor is not something that sustainable, and we have to start looking into robotics and other automations to support our production. And this is where our national robotic roadmap being established in order to look into the policy and try to rearrange the ecosystem. It's not that we are starting from zero. Yeah, we have the capability in terms of talent, in terms of the support system, in terms of the companies that making components and parts. But then we have to see it from the governance point of view, incentive, R&Ds, because very much difference compared to Singapore. Singaporean company, they have very established industrial R&D. Yeah, they have R&D in their company, and they are putting a lot of money into this R&D. Where we are still lagging behind, and we try to promote the migration from academic R&D to the industrial R&D. I think like DF Automation, another startup company like Robopreneur that came up from university, I think it's a good model, something that we can learn on how actually this migration of academic R&D can be done. Because the more we do the industrial R&D, the more success we're going to be in terms of deploying not only robotics, but other advanced system in our industry. Of course, the justification of costs and all those things need to be done. But then the encouragement also policy will play important role in order to accelerate this kind of adoption. Yeah, I think number 14 is not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad because we are having a good awareness. And nowadays, it doesn't matter if you start early or later because the world is quite dynamic and we can have all those technology faster not compared to before. So I think we are catching up and we have a good, a chance in order to, if you are talking about Singapore, we can overcome Singapore probably with the right mindset, with the right policy, with the right effort. I think maybe we can take over Singapore one day, inshallah.
True, true. Thank you, Dr. Anafia. And over to you, Dr. Yong. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I've been always asked this question as well. And DF Automation, we do export to Singapore. And this is my personal experience. I still remember when we tried to sell a robot to MNC in Malaysia. And it took us 1 year to get the approval. In fact, after 1 year, so we cannot get the approval to buy the robot because they say they don't have capex, they cannot get the approval from the US, so and so forth. And because they see the value and the benefit of the robot, then actually they use the OPEX to actually rent the robot. In the other way, they actually fire for, I don't use firewood here, it's a very sensitive word. They just don't hire another 4 workers to rent the robot. I think the next question people going to ask is robot going to replace a job, right? So that is in Malaysia that we spend, 1 year to nego to get, that is the worst case that we had before. And I still remember in Singapore, there's one email to us, then immediately I just reply. And we went in the next day and we closed the deal in 1 week time. And you know what the buyer, the customer said, wow, so cheap, you can have so many stuff. So what Dr. Hanifa said is true. It's all about pricing. And in Singapore, their salary is very high. And they have definitely this kind of buying power. That's number one, the cost. And in this region, we are very cost sensitive. The second, the policy is very good. We have a lot of customers, they buy not because of the cost, because the government actually subsidize it and quite a bit. So they come to us and say, hey, Dr. Young, we have this grant, and can I buy the robot? Let's write a proposal to get whatnot. So we have a lot of these requests. And the third one is actually the ecosystem. I mean, because of the robot is there, because of the aspect is there, then a lot of companies come to Singapore and then it grow and grow and grow. Some of the tech robot company, they're headquartered in Singapore as well. So that it is. But why in Malaysia a bit challenging? I think number one is like Dr. Hanifa said, we have a lot of foreigners, then our minimum wages are really reduced. If you want to compete outright, it's sure cannot one. The second, we do have policy, but again, business is a business. We want to see the business set. Then the third one is the ecosystem is not here that much at this moment because we don't have that kind of a mass installation of the robot. So it's a chicken and egg kind of a situation. And if you ask me what is the strategy to improve the robot intake in Malaysia, number one, I don't think that we want to increase the minimum wages. A lot of people will actually complain to us. And I could think of is one way we can look into China. when China, they become manufacturing 10, 20 years ago, they don't really buy robot from other. They bought initially, but they build their own robot. And the other country we can look at is actually Denmark. It's a very small country. And at the end of the day, they said, hey, the robot is so expensive. They build their own robot. And we have this universal robot. We have this some MIR and those. And Denmark population is much smaller than Malaysia. So my point is, I think we should strategize to become a maker, to build a robot to serve not only Malaysia, actually, to this region. So once we have that kind of a maker and we have a few more, then the ecosystem will start to build up. So I think it's kind of like, we need some kind of success story to put this forward.
Thank you, Dr. Yong. Yeah, that reminds me during my early years of employment in Singapore. I work in a US multinational company, and they already started using robots. The whole country, maybe there are about 10 robots inside there. That is already very great in 1990s. So looking at the Singapore's policies, where the government is behind pushing the whole industry, pushing the whole high-tech industry to go invest in Singapore and build up the ecosystem, we are not too late, even though, like Dr. Hanafa said, we are ranking number 14. Now we have this time. This is the right time here in Drone and Robotics Zone in Johor. We hope both of you, the expert of this industry, to come help us to build this ecosystem here in Malaysia, in Johor. Right? Now we have the next questions about, there's one audience asking, now with the development, the fast pace of development in computers, machines, all these software algorithm, can the robot replace humans? This is a general question for both of you.
So I'll answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just answer a quick one. Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of robot, is actually to replace the workers and so on, but actually not to take completely. The robot only have certain capability. And most of the job that are being taken away are those that actually the worker doesn't want to work. I still remember I was in Singapore to see what a plant. They actually hire an operator just to push a pallet carrying about 100 kg, I think, not very heavy, 100 kg, go from one point to another point, and he walked for 30 minutes for one journey. He come back another one journey, 30 minutes. So in one day, he basically need to walk 8 times, need to get paid. So then the company said that it's not about money in Singapore, but they said that this is not, optimized. So they said they need to think of a solution. So that's why they use this robot for the job. Yes, some jobs are going to be taken away, definitely, like I mentioned early on. And also like food, send the food to the hospital, some jobs being taken away. But at the same time, it creates a new job opportunity. Try to imagine the factory of about 5,000 people, and then you put 1,000 robots there, you replace like 4,000 people. Yeah, 4,000 people lost, you got 1,000 robots. But this 1,000 robot, when you have that kind of a robot, the company asking you for the new robot. So first thing, this 1,000 robot, you need someone to maintain and service. You need someone to do the supply chain. So this one create a huge kind of another tech company supply chain and whatnot. Then because of this, people start to understand operation robot. They want more. After that, I can tell you, my mom, my wife asked me, can you build a robot that wash the clothes, go and iron the clothes and all kind of stuff. And this is where the innovation come along because of the market demand. So having said that, it does take over some of the job, but at the same time also it creates a huge opportunity of the job.
Thank you. Yeah. How about Dr. Nafia?
Well, yeah, just echoing what Dr. Yong said. It's true. I just probably quote one survey by McKinsey on Malaysia. Actually, 50% of our jobs is actually redundant and also repetitive. Yeah, so it's highly possible that this repetitive work will be replaced by robotics and automation. So, and it's already happening right now. Just look around when during this pandemic, many industry cannot operate, and we are looking for alternative, some sort of machines, robots, anything that can actually avoid from direct contact between human to human. This is actually the right model of how robotics can be part of that. Be a medium to solve human problem. And towards the post-pandemic is actually the critical point. this is something that happening right now when we are thinking of the current problem. But the upcoming problem is the vital one. You know, when we start opening our industry, there's a lot of industry will need some sort of robotics and automations, you know, to able to them to reoperate and re-establish back their operation. So this is where how we the pandemic is accelerating. The needs and the market driven is actually very huge in terms of getting robots involved in our daily operation. I think robotics company worldwide, I'm talking with some of our partners and other colleagues overseas also, they are preparing very huge, they are ramping their productions to fulfill the requirement of this post-pandemic. Yeah. And Malaysian, we are actually, we're talking about replacing human job. We cannot run from there if we keep our level capability within the job that you know, repetitive. We're not able to upgrade our skill and capability. We cannot avoid if the automation is going to take our job. Yeah, that's the real fact. And some of them is we're going to have a very big crisis in terms of machine and human. But at the end of the day, economics will always taking about growth. Yeah, how Malaysia going to grow, going to recover from pandemic, for example. Are we going to rely on the previous problem and repeat again the same mistake? I don't think so. So this is where I think we have to face the fact that we have to upgrade our skill. We have to rethink back the way what we do, and we have to see the reality of technology. They're going to be part of our life. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Now we have one question from audience. What do you think about the efforts such as a DRZ? Iskandar, is it a good step in the direction? Is it the right way? And how the primary drive from the government that we can improve and increase the awareness among all the governments level to push this DRZ to be successful here in Johor?
Yeah, I'll answer that first.
Yeah, maybe Dr. Yong.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, DRZ is a very, very good initiative, to be honest, not because I've been invited here. Well, I can share that for the last 20 years, I've been in robotic field when I was an undergrad in UTM. Then after that, 10 years, I started this company, DFautomate 2012. And I found a huge challenges, to be honest, to do all the robotic stuff. And I had the opportunity to visit China and San Francisco Robotic Club, and also the Denmark, where we see how their ecosystem, the startup and whatnot. So one thing that we don't have is actually ecosystem. And I tried to do that actually in UTM and also in the region, and it was so tough. And I'm so glad that, you know, now DRZ is coming out with, I mean, very good resources and backup from the government. And we already start seeing a lot of a good, you know, activity being carried out. People are coming here, people know about this place. And I think for the next 5 and 10 years, if all the strategy work out as planned by DRZ, I really hope that DRZ or Iskandar in this region is like the robotic hub of Southeast Asia, if it's not in Asia. So it's a very, very good effort. And I really hope that all the company out there or university out there try to consider to be coming here. We want this area to be like a tech state in this region.
Thank you. Dr. Nafia?
Okay, so I think DRZ is done very well. It is a good model for other initiative. I'm not only talking about regional initiative. I think other states should be able to, you know, to learn from this experience, and we should have something in probably in the northern side, in Terengganu, Kelantan, or anything, you know, not only something in a big city like Klang Valley or Johor, you know, because we are, you know, when we want to calculate our cost on the investment, when we are investing into technology, it's actually it's a burning money. You know, I think DRZ have spent a lot, I know, in all these years, and I'm quite happy companies not only the JLC or like Azana, you know, but also companies like DHL, all those big players also be part of the initiative. It's really good because at the end we are only talking about market driven. If there is no market, no, there's no point that we are putting a lot of money on that. No, so but then we don't. I try to emphasize is that don't look at the money that's been spent. Look at the impact or the growth. It's not, we are building something that the market is in the future. But if we are not doing it today, we're going to to suffer when we buy a robot for 200,000. We feel very expensive because it's not our product, it's not our technology, and those manufacturers that are making that product is actually spending a lot on R&D, and 200,000 for them is quite reasonable. Yeah. So we don't want to be like this. We want to have a local capability. We want to be a nation that able to produce our product. We want to have a nation that produce our talent. Yeah, we don't want to much rely on the foreign workers. We don't want to rely too much on the foreign talent. Nowadays, we still need to have a good programmer from India, from other countries to help us to build our product. We don't want that in future.
Well, it's true. It's true.
So this is something that DRZ, I think they're doing the right thing. And of course, we need to support. And of course, there's a lot of things need to be done. There's no something that we do is going to be perfect, but we still, we need to have more of this DRZ model in other states, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Anafia and Dr. Yong. Today we have a very, very good insight session about this robotic here in this special event. And in this whole event that we know, we have gone through types of robots and the industry players and what are the challenges by Dr. Yong, talking about how this technopreneurship building here in Malaysia for over 10 years, he can have such a good background, good base here in Malaysia to go over to the international market, which is a very, very proud foundation. And for Dr. Anafia, your expertise and your knowledge in this robotic field, sharing with us here, and also the development of your company here. We know that you have also nominated for one of the what I call the startup award here in Malaysia. Both of you is one of the experts that we will soon collaborate to work on in DRZ zone, and hopefully we will meet again.